Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, where our job is to help you build visibility, professional credibility, and connection with your ideal client by putting the human at the center of innovative marketing, so you can build and strengthen an engaging, enduring relationship with your ideal clients. I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm honored that you're here with me. If you haven't joined our wonderful marketing transformation community yet, go to innovabiz.co and collect your free gift as well. Do subscribe to the show and also leave a review because it helps others find us. Let's get into today's masterclass on this InnovaBuzz podcast.
Most important thing for me is just try to find time to be with yourself and to understanding your conditioning. I think that will help you be comfortable with yourself and to have trust in that your ideas are important. You know what I mean? And you won't be afraid to write them down and to share them with other people if you have real convictions with them.
Welcome back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. Now, if you haven't yet listened to my recent conversations with podcast guesting mentor and trainer Maykade Sang and improviser and corporate trainer Gillian Bellinger, then do check them out after you've listened to today's conversation, of course. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest today, Sheldon Shaw, a playwright, screenwriter and actor. Sheldon has performed on stage and screen for over 20 years. For the last 9 years, Sheldon's primary passion has been writing. His plays include Control-Alt-Right-Delete, Jailbird, Baby Starbucks, Billy Shelly Ally, Glen, and he's a multiple award winner for his plays, as well as recently being listed in Time Out magazine as a Black playwright you need to know. Sheldon has studied theatre, acting and playwriting, and in addition to that, he also has a BA from Temple University majoring in Human Resource Administration and Risk Management and Insurance. Interesting combination. In our discussion today, Sheldon talked to me about how observation and an interest in people is key to his creative process. We talked about understanding and accepting your conditioning and realizing that your ideas are important. And we talked about being confident in your ideas and knowledge while at the same time open to feedback. Without further ado, then let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Sheldon Shaw. Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited today to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast from New York in the USA, Sheldon Shaw. Sheldon is an actor, a writer, and a playwright. So it's something a little different today. Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Sheldon. It's a great privilege to have you as my guest.
Oh, thank you very much, Jürgen. It's wonderful to be here.
Dr. Richard Orbe-Austin, who was our guest on episode 337 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested that we have a conversation with you, Sheldon.
Right.
So big hello to Richard.
Hello, Richard. Richard is a wonderful person. You only need Richard. He's so amazing. You don't need even me.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was looking through your background and I see you have a degree in risk management and insurance and human resource administration.
Yeah.
But now you're in acting and writing plays and script writing, screenwriting. So how did you make that transition, or was that always the path and the other was just to back up to get a real job if acting didn't pan out?
Oh, no. I think risk management insurance is what drove me to be an actor and writer, because I was going to school for business and risk management. I enjoyed it on paper. And when we started going to do real live on this, what we're supposed to do for real life, And we were sitting in a place and we were looking at like fire hydrants and fire extinguishers. And I was like sitting there, like analyzing fire extinguisher. How old is this fire extinguisher? How old is this door? I was like, wow, this is what we're going to be doing for the rest of my life. I was like, oh, goodness. And also the people involved, to be honest with you, I didn't really care for them. But at the same time in college, I was dating a woman and we had a really bad breakup. And all that caused me to go to therapy. And during therapy, she suggested that I take up something creative. And I came across an acting class one night and they let me audit the acting class. And I'm sitting there auditing this acting class. And the acting class, they're rehearsing for a play they're about to produce called Savage in Limbo by Patrick Shanley. And I mean, something happened to me that has never happened to me in a class before. I started to shake. I started losing all aspects of time. And it was so amazing because they were acting real life. Because when I thought about acting, I thought it was like Shakespeare musicals. I was like, oh, that doesn't really interest me. And, but when I saw that it could mimic real life, and people are actually having real dialogue, getting angry at one another without hurting each other, it just hooked me. And when I left that class that day, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life in some aspect. And
fascinating.
and that was like over 24 years ago.
Right.
And here I am.
And so did you get into acting through that or how did the
I signed up that day
into writing?
I signed up that day for acting class with that teacher named Kurt Whipple. He had studied in New York City at the neighborhood playhouse, and he was really teaching a real acting class. But the one thing about acting, there's the art to it, which is what people, I think, drive a lot of people towards acting. And there's the actually trying to get jobs with acting. There's a business part that's a lot different. There's so many aspects. You can be as talented as actors you can be. You can have a really difficult time getting jobs and surviving. And that was happening with me. And one day, one of my acting teachers at the time in New York City, he had passed away. And I met up with a lot of people who were in my classes studying, and we discussed about getting together and creating our own work. And at this time, and one person in particular, Martin Rio Frio, is a good friend of mine. He was like, "Why don't we just write a screenplay?" It's like, "All right, I'll try." And we wrote it and we filmed it, and we were like, "Wow, that wasn't too bad," and I really, really enjoyed it. And so I said to myself, you know what, maybe I should take a class in writing if I really want to continue doing this. And that's what I did. I went, and at the time I was at the Labyrinth Theater Company. I was like volunteering as an usher constantly. And at this theater company, which is a well-known theater company, it's Phil Seymour Hoffman's theater company. And they would have classes. And there was one class they had called writing for actors. It was taught by Martha Wallner, and she was so sweet and gentle. And she promised us, after this class, you're going to write a 10-minute play. I was like, no way. And we did. I really did. And I was hooked. And from that day on, I've been writing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating that, and I've had this conversation with a few people now that are more in the space of exploring creativity and highlighting that everybody has it in them to be creative and that there's a process you can go through. And what you've just described there, I think, is that there is a process that people teach in terms of writing creative. So what do you think are some of the challenges of bringing out that creativity in each of us?
It's the fear of failure. I think it is a lot. And that has a lot to do with not trusting yourself. And that comes a lot from the conditioning of growing up that we are supposed to do certain things to make a living, you know? And creative, it's a difficult thing. You possibly will not make a living at it. You know what I mean? So people will not put themselves out there to try to be creative. You know what I mean? It's a scary thing. but, and that's why some people do what they do. I mean, everyone could do it, but you have to be able to really risk and really want to do it. And you can't think about trying to make a kind of living that you're raised to think you're going to make. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. And that's okay. I mean, it's really fulfilling for me. And I even do other jobs, and I love those other small jobs, you know, but I still write. I still act once in a while. But I think it's the fear that keeps people from really, you know, doing it, even in their everyday life. They're like, oh, that's too artsy. I'll stop doing that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the fear of being judged, I guess? Mm-hmm. People saying, well, I didn't like that play, or I didn't like that. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. They won't tell you most of the time. The problem is, to be honest with you, is when people don't say anything at all. Because people are afraid to tell you how bad things are. And that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And I can relate to that. It's a little bit like on this podcast where, you know, I'll get people saying, that was a great conversation. I really enjoyed that. I will get occasionally people saying, oh, you didn't follow up when, you know, the conversation went down this track and you could have followed up. You know, I was sort of looking for you to ask the follow-up question and you didn't. Right. And that's okay, because I'm getting that feedback. It's exactly what you say. It's when people don't say anything and I say,
very quiet.
What did you think of that conversation?
I know. Come on. You're like even my family member. You're like, come on. You're not going to say anything. Yeah. Come on. I get that all the time, but it's just something you have to go through. It can make you tougher, or it can make you very depressed. But it's something you have to go through. I mean, there's a lot of failure. I mean, if you want to call it that, because I don't call it that. For me, it's just a learning experience. You know what I mean? And you're not going to please everyone. You're just not. So don't try. You know?
Yeah, it's good. It's good when you can let that go, isn't it? And say, well, this is my objective, and I know I won't please everyone.
Right.
And if I don't please the people that I think this will please, well, then what did I learn from that?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. What you do learn a whole lot. You learn a whole lot about yourself with the arts. Especially when you're creating, you learn a lot. When you hand it over to what you should always do, hand it over to somebody you really trust for the first read, let's say, you learn about which is the most frightening thing for me personally, is the first read after I've written someone. Even with someone I really trust, I'll be in the next room like, oh my God, what's going on in there? What are they thinking? But once you get through that, and maybe you need to edit some more or whatever, then it gets better. And once I get to two people I really trust, then I feel confident in it to put it out in the world. And that's when, if people don't like it, it's okay. I like it. And I know people I trust like it. You know what I mean?
So what's your process for writing? I mean, how do you get started? How do you maintain that?
Oh yeah. Oh boy, I love it. For me, it's a lot about meditating. I call it meditating on characters, because sometimes we'll start with two characters, sometimes one, but usually two characters just having a discussion. And I meditate on these characters' lives, who they are, what they like, what kind of people they are. And I do them individually, meditate on them. And then once you have that deep understanding of who these people are, before you write anything down, then I go like, what story do I want to tell? You know, what am I trying to, it might be big themes, like what's about, money, or something that's going on wrong in the world right now. How would these two characters handle this situation? And then I meditate on that. And sometimes I'll watch the whole play or screenplay from beginning to end. Just sit there and meditate on watching it from beginning to end. I might miss some little spots here and there, but you just see a big picture of it. Even before I write another word. And then, boom, I'll sit down. And then usually.
So these characters are imaginary?
It really flows. Huh? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But then it will really flow. And then you once you write, the characters write it for you.
So are these imaginary characters?
It usually comes from people I know.
Yeah.
Little bits and pieces of people I know. It could be half my father and half my brother. It could be a mix of people. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah. But in a sense, yes, it is imaginary people. So that's based on my process for getting into a story. And that's the beginning.
Yeah. And so what inspires some of the themes that you then write about?
Life issues I've grown up with. They'll come up in a meditation. What's going on in the world right now often comes up.
There's a lot to talk about there, isn't there?
in the meditation. But and like, for instance, just watching everyday life, a situation will happen. I wrote a play once where a woman was coming into a Starbucks with her baby. And I usually write at Starbucks because I like the energy of people. And I've seen her come there every day. And this one day, she was in a hurry and a rush, or she was excited or something. I don't know. She came in with her baby in the stroller. She parked. She went up, ordered her drink, sat down near the door. They called her name. She ran to get her coffee and started sitting there, fixing the coffee, making it sweeter or whatever she was doing to it. She left her baby right by the door. And where I go to the Starbucks, I was like, someone crazy could come in and just steal her baby, right? And where I write, there's a shelter, there is VA hospital, there is, there's a Bellevue hospital right in that area. So there's a lot of not so right people in that area. And I thought to myself, what if someone came in and stole her baby? And that started the whole play. How would she respond? And how would the barista, who she sees every day, how would she help her or not help? I don't know. It was just it was a dramatic moment that started the play. And I wrote it that time. And actually, that was the first play I sent in, and it won, a few contests. And I wrote it right there. So creativity is all around you. Innovation is all around you. You just got to be open to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of easier for me because I do not have a 9-to-5 job, and I make my own schedule. So that does help me a little bit, where I can be a little freer with my time.
Yeah. But I really like that, though. If you like looking at that from the outside, I look at your process, and I think, well, there was curiosity there. There was asking a what if question, connecting to things like you had this vision of something bad happening, and you saw this moment of the woman not paying attention to the baby, and you asked the what if question, and then that kind of sparks the whole process, and
that I went into, because the barista is Black and she works behind the counter, and she's basically a New York white woman. You know what I mean? What kind of conversation would they have when something went down? And at one point, she actually tried to blame the barista for kidnapping her baby, in a sense, saying "Oh, you've been watching me every day, my schedule." And then it went to this whole dialogue, and then it went to another direction. So,
So exploring the conversations that might happen.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
But you got to be open to them. You have to pay attention to the world. Yeah.
Okay. And so what are some of the lessons you've learned in kind of pursuing this writing, and is there any reflection back on your original career of risk management and insurance, or is that kind of a past life you've left that behind for good?
It's a past life, but business is always involved with the real world. Like I said before, the acting is, you can learn the art of it, but there's a business side.
Mm.
And so that's always going to be, I always understand that. So that's why I don't get so mad and jaded by it, because I understand business very well, you know?
Mm.
But one thing I've learned about the art to especially writing, there's a great example. I had a moment with a big producer who, it was through a friend, and they're like, okay, I'll read your work. And I went out and met them after I read it. They're like, I hated it. Basically, you should just tear it up and blah, blah. It's like, and he explained to me why. It's like, but I was really confident in what I've written. You know, it went through those two phases of people I really trust, you know? And he said, you should just get rid of this. He said, just throw it away, to be honest with you. I was like, no. Deep down, I was like, no, I will not do that. And then I sent it out to this theater company, this African-American theater company. They called me up the next day. He's like, oh, we want to do this. So, and I found myself like a couple months later in Vermont, this play being performed at the Briggs Opera House on a Saturday night, and then it got a standing ovation. But if I wasn't strong enough and believe in my convictions, I would have definitely, if I were young or, you know, not experienced, I would have just, oh my God, this guy's a big producer. I would have just definitely like, oh my God, this must be horrible. I would have probably tore it up, you know? Mm. So that's
how important. Yeah. How important is it to really know the audience you're writing for when you go through that process? Because to me, that sounds a little bit like, you know, the big producer has his audience in mind, and your play perhaps wasn't a fit for that audience. And yet for a different audience, the one that you performed in front of the Briggs Theatre, it really resonated, you know, to the point that standing in ovation.
Right. Whew, writing for the audience. I try to never think about that, to be honest with you. But I always think of my writing, to be honest with you, is really universal, and in a way, that's a difficult one, because I'm never trying to think about that when I'm writing. It's like if it resonates well with people I trust who read it, and if I have a reading and it resonates, or if I produce my own reading and it resonates, then I think I have something. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of a time where it hasn't. I mean, there's been times when people didn't like parts of it, and that's part of the rewriting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There might be certain parts that are not resonating, or they don't seem they fit. And you know that if like 3 people read it and they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, of course, the feedback of, hey, we didn't like this bit, and perhaps this could have been different in this way, is more helpful to you than throw it away. That's no good.
Yes. Oh, tell me about it. Oh, most definitely. But that's, even in the professional ranks, that's what you're going to have to deal with. So you got to understand that, you know? And that's why I think a lot of people should produce their own work. Sometimes you run into a lot of people like that who will say that, oh, this is horrible, and you should just quit. You know? So really have trust in yourself, in your convictions.
So what's changed for you in terms of the acting and the writing over the last, what is it now, 14 months or so that we've been in the throes of this pandemic?
There's been a lot of reflection. There's been a lot of not writing. That's changed a lot. There's been a lot of not doing what I was doing before, because even with acting, there's been no auditions. There's been no submissions for writing. So there's been a lot of, I was really depressed for at least 3 months from the beginning of the pandemic. I couldn't finish one page of say a newspaper or a magazine, let alone a book. I haven't read a book yet fully, to be honest with you. And I used to love to read. I used to read, then I would write, then I would read, then I would write in a session. I don't even do that anymore. Well, you can't even go to a Starbucks. So that ruined my schedule. Usually I go to Starbucks. But that's changed a lot. I tried to do Zoom. I even tried to do a Zoom play. That was fantastic, except I met a lot of people, like some actors and directors, but when it came to actually doing the actual Zoom play, there's no response from an audience because there's no audience. So you can't hear anything. You can't hear anything. So you're like, oh, did that work? I don't know. And some people write you, it's like, oh, that was really good. And some people don't write you, don't say anything. So anyway, that's all changed. And my focus has been actually a little more on writing films because I think that's going to come back sooner than plays.
Okay. Well, that's interesting that you mentioned the audience feedback and that makes it difficult to do something online because I have clients who do workshops in person or have been doing in-person workshops and they made the same comment in terms of going online to do the presentation and the training. The content is suitable to do online.
Right.
However, there is a high level of interaction in the workshops that they do, and they actually feed off the audience in their response, which is similar to what you were describing there. Do you have any ideas how to kind of get some level of engagement in an online space when you're doing a workshop or when you're doing a presentation or when you're doing a play?
Yeah, exactly. So we've all been thinking about that. We have no idea. we have absolutely no idea. The only thing you can do, I think, for plays, to be honest with you, because you can leave everyone's sound on, but it's just too much sound coming from outside and all these things. You got to treat it like it's a completely new medium, like it's almost like a TV show. So you got to act it like it's going to be, there's not going to be no response. And you as a writer, I just have to not take it personal. And you just have to look at it as basically like a TV show with no live audience. I don't know. Maybe you can add a live audience sound to laugh at some of the jokes, just like they do on TV, a laugh track. Maybe that's a possibility. But people are just dying to get back out into the real world. That's what a lot of my playwright friends, they will not do Zoom whatsoever. Yeah. They're just waiting until we get back into the theater. I mean, some are writing, but I don't know. A lot of them actually got hired on TV shows. So that's what they're doing. Working for TV has been doing. I guess it's been doing kind of well. I mean, it's going to be, TV and film are going to be, it's a little bit easier to control with the pandemic. Plays, not so much.
Yeah. Well, the live theatre is certainly a very different experience, isn't it? It's very much dependent on audience response and particularly if it's something that is perhaps less structured from a script point of view, if there's a high level of audience engagement that actually is part of the whole experience.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Some like even with comedic plays, they know exactly where people are supposed to laugh and they fix their scripts on that. Yeah. Some are so like strict. They'll count like how many people were laughing at this point, how many people were I'm not kidding you. So so things have changed and we'll see how they go. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think I have the answer for that one. How you can fix it, but getting into the real theater is the answer, I think.
Yes, well, let's hope that can happen fairly soon again. There's good signs now with the vaccines that are available, so I guess it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Do you see? Because I guess there's, I certainly in the business world, I see that there's going to be a lot of lasting changes as a result of the pandemic, and I think particularly the use of online tools. People have been opened up to new possibilities there in the business world. Do you see any changes in the creative world, in kind of live plays or theatre or the work you do in writing,
right?
Transcending the pandemic, so coming out of it, saying, well, this bit was actually quite good. We can continue to use this.
Yeah. I think with the interview process, it helps. Like, you can choose, you can do, I think interviews would work well kind of online, you know what I mean? So you can, like for writing for a TV show, like I'm about to do a Zoom interview after this, that's in Atlanta, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So that they're going to, I think they're going to keep that bit. Any kind of job where they figured out was like, wow, it's working well without them, which is not nice, but they're going to just eliminate those little jobs, you know, like, wow, kind of works well. Just them being at home, you know what I mean? Or they realize they don't need that part of the job. So there's a lot of jobs you don't need to be in office. So I think that's going to be, it's going to like, for instance, a lot of writers, it helps with the rent. They don't have to store writers in their studio, on the studio lots. They can just work at home. The problem with writers is that it's hard for them to work with new writers on a show they've already been working on at home. But people who are really experienced, I think they will have a benefit of having jobs as writers. But for business, I think there's going to be a lot of jobs that are not going to exist anymore.
Yes, certainly. I think there's changes coming that will certainly endure past the pandemic.
You got that right. Yes, no doubt about it.
But hopefully you'll be able to get back into Starbucks soon and get that creative inspiration.
I hope so. That would be amazing. That'd be amazing.
Do you get, because I was going to make that point earlier, you talked about the piece you wrote about the woman's baby being stolen. And
right.
It sounds like you get a lot of inspiration from just observing people and then imagining how might, you get an idea of this is what this person's about, their values, their mannerisms and behaviors that you've observed, and then imagining how might they react in this imaginary situation.
Exactly. There's a lot of that. I do a lot of that. I love that. And also listening to how people speak and talk to one another, or don't speak to certain people, or how they pay attention to, like, how they treat like a barista. Rather than how they treat watch how they talk on the phone with a friend or family, whoever they may be. Do you know what I mean? I watch all that sort of interaction, I think that's really important, especially with writing and writing dialogue on how people speak to one another, based on their maybe even job title. It's a big difference. And some of it may seem like it's nice, but it's kind of like a fake nice. They're just getting through the day. It's like, oh, this is my routine, and this is okay. Got my coffee. Let's go. I got to do some real work. But I think that all life is real work. Every moment is real work. It's great to be around people. I mean, now we know more than ever that it's great to be around people.
Well, that's certainly, I mean, I think it's been highlighted now for the most introverted of those of us like me.
Right.
It's actually nice to get out and around people. When you can't do it, you suddenly realize that it's something you miss.
Or you're around the same person for what's it, 10 months. Like I have a roommate. You're like, oh my God, I gotta see somebody else. But anyway, we won't tell her that.
All right. Well, on that note, I think, we've this has been wonderful to talk about your creative process, and I think there's a lot of lessons there in terms of business and to me, being observant and asking questions like what if, and then imagining other scenarios, but kind of knowing a little bit about the people that you're actually portraying in that, so that you can actually say, well, how would so and so respond to a situation? So being observant and then asking those questions, asking the deeper questions. They're the highlights for me.
And also for me, it's like the really listening. I think even as a business person, really, really taking people in and really, really listening, and really showing that you care, that, that you are listening, 'cause I think just like the people at Starbucks, I don't think they really listen to each other. They're just, do you know what I mean? They're just, he's a barista, I'm a patron. That's it. No, little niceties, and then I'm off.
Yeah. It's a transaction, isn't it?
It is a transaction.
And we a lot of times don't move beyond the transactions.
No doubt about it. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So listening and really caring about people, that's a great message. So I think, I'm aware of the time, and I know you've got something important coming up. So
it's
now
okay.
to move. I think it's a good time to move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's our scripted bit, which is 5 questions.
Okay. All right.
And hopefully you'll give us some insightful answers that will inspire the listener to go and do something awesome today as a result.
Right. No problem.
So what do you think anyone needs to do to be more innovative? What's the number one tip?
I think for me is being more confident. Be confident in what you know, what you believe, and be that your ideas have, worth. I think, write it down, see what happens. Don't listen to the negative voice like, oh, that's too crazy. No, that would never work. You never know. Have confidence in yourself. You never know. That's what writing. We're always writing crazy stuff. You never know. It could work. I've written things that were crazy as like, oh, someone's going to read this like, you should get rid of that. But sometimes it worked,
And writing it down. Yeah. I like the writing it down. I think there's sort of certain value in writing things down, even if it's not because you're actually writing something to be a writer.
Right. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yes. No doubt about it.
All right. Now, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas? I think we've probably talked about this a little.
Oh, my goodness. We talked about this a lot. But for me, it's meditation. Meditation, let the universe flow through you. Let the ideas, be open to things, be open to the world. Don't cut things off based on your conditioning of life, how you grew up, where you grew up. But be open, be open. That's what helps me develop ideas.
Yeah.
Ideas I don't even know. And then ideas will even come up in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping and I wake up and I come up with these ideas, But I was open during the day, so, and then it'll come to me at night.
Yeah. So do you actively practice meditation? Have you trained in meditation?
I went through I studied Buddhism a little bit for a while, but then I discovered, I studied. I even went to Ojai, California to study meditation. And then I read a great book by Juju Krishnamurti. He's he's like, you don't need anyone to teach you meditation. You need to find it out for yourself.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Great. Well, we'll reference that book too.
Yes. It's called Freedom from the Known, basically. It's trying to understand your conditioning. That, all your decisions are based usually on your conditioning in life, and you need to be aware of it.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Now, do you have a favorite resource you use most often?
I do. And people think it's crazy, but there is an app called the Most Dangerous Writing App. So have you heard of this app?
No, I haven't. It sounds interesting.
So the Most Dangerous Writing App is an app where you set it up on a timer. As the timer, I think between 5 and 60 minutes, and you start writing. And if you stop writing for 5 seconds, it erases everything you've written.
Oh.
So that, and so that way you get out of your head, and you just write from your gut. So if you then sometimes you'll write blah, 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 but then you got to keep writing, And then once you become better at it, you can start writing stories with it. You just got to, prepare yourself, like what you're going to write about, who are the characters, and then you just go. I've written a couple of plays through just that app. I mean, each scene I've set the timer for, say, like 20 minutes. And I basically wrote a scene. I mean, it's not, you can edit later. But you get deep. You get deep into yourself, into your consciousness. You get into your subconscious, basically.
Yeah, fascinating, isn't it? Because it essentially forces you to stop the thinking and analysis bit.
Yes.
Yeah, you just got to keep writing.
Yes, you have to keep writing. Yes, no doubt about it. It's a wonderful, wonderful app once you get the hang of it. And there's another level to this app, which is called the blind version, where you don't even get to see what you're writing. But I don't do that one.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Okay. Well, I'll have to check that one out, and of course we'll link to it in the show notes as well. Because a lot of our listeners, they produce material for their business, and I have the same issue. I sometimes sit down in front of a blank piece of paper, and I think I need to write a blog post, or I need to write about this, and I might have a topic in my head. And I'll get 2 sentences in, and the judgment kicks in. The analysis, is that any good? What I've written there, and then of course the creative flow is stopped.
Just stopped. Exactly. And it goes back to really trusting what you have inside yourself. It's worthy. It's worth something. So just write it down. You never know. You never know where it will go. You never know. So that's a really good tool.
Yeah. All right. Now, what's the best way to stay on track when you're working with somebody else? So in writing or producing a play?
Oh, okay. It's just setting time aside. Just setting time aside. You just set some time. It doesn't matter if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Set time aside to keep, just so that it's consistent. So you have consistency.
Okay. Yeah. And just keep it as a habit.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. It has to be a habit. Yeah, exactly. No doubt about it. Yeah. That's all I can say. That's all you can do.
Yeah. All right. And finally, in the buzz round, what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Tell your story. Tell your story. I mean, you are who you are. It's not your fault. You were born where you were born. You're born to who you were born to. And that is your story. So live with it. Some people I feel like are fighting who they are and where they come from and who they're born to. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, so just tell your story. I mean, it's different from anybody else's story. I promise you that.
Yeah, that certainly is. The interesting thing, I mean, a lot of people say be yourself and don't try to be somebody else. The interesting thing I find, and you can probably relate to this, when you're acting out a role, it actually costs a lot of energy to act out a role that's not you, and yet people do that all the time in real life.
In real life, yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, you will save a lot of energy if you just be yourself. I mean, it's still tiring. Life is tiring, but yeah. But you're right. Acting another role it's exhausting. Oh my goodness. It is so exhausting.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
And so unless we do it for fun because we enjoy acting, it's probably a good idea to leave it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say, but I feel like people feel they're going to want to please everybody, but you just can't do that. You're just not going to be liked by everyone.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, thanks, Sheldon. This has been absolutely fabulous. Now, where can people find out more about you and maybe even reach out and say thanks for what you've shared today?
Sure thing. My email is Sheldon, SHELDON, Brando, BRANDO @gmail.com. Brando is my favorite actor. My IG is Sheldon Shaw 3324. And my link tree is @Sheldon Brando. Brando, again, being my favorite actor. That's basically it. I'm not everywhere, but yeah.
Okay. All right. And we'll include links to those in the show notes. So
no doubt about it.
We could explore some Brando references there. So
we could.
Going back to what was it? Streetcar Named Desire was one of the first ones that I'm aware of, and then of course you did you did The Godfather. the
Yeah.
first Godfather ones, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, the streetcar is like, I was watching that and I was looking down. It's black and white. It's like one of my when I was first studying acting, and I'm looking down when it's beginning, and then I hear this voice. I'm like, who is that guy? I was like, he like reminded me of my my mother's boyfriend. He did. I was like, wow, he's a real person.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Now, do you have any parting advice you'd like to leave our listener with today?
I think I said it about the most important thing for me is just try to find time to be with yourself and to understanding your conditioning. I think that will help you be comfortable with yourself and have trust in that your ideas are important. You know what I mean? And you won't be afraid to write them down and to share them with other people if you have real convictions with them. And I mean, that lesson I learned with that producer is one of them. I was like, thank goodness I had a belief in what I'd written. I mean, he just didn't see it. He just didn't understand what it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great point. You know, having belief in your ideas, and that we've all got things to share that are important, and not allow ourselves to be put off by somebody that just puts you down like that with
exactly
no value. Yeah.
And also there's another part to that is don't hold on to ideas so strongly. Don't like, if they don't work, sometimes they're not gonna work. Sometimes you gotta let them go. And it might not be that they're bad. It's just might not be the right time. You know what I mean? You know,
that comes into the awareness part as well, doesn't it?
Oh,
knowing when to say, well, that feedback, I'm going to ignore that because I don't believe it, and there's actually no value to that because all they've said is it's no good. But at the same time, if somebody then comes back and says, well, you know, there's so much wrong with this play and it's A, B, C, D, E, that you don't then hang on to it because you realize that, oh, maybe I need to change A, B, C, D, and E, and if I do that, it's rewriting the whole thing.
Rewriting the whole thing, basically, yeah. So yes, that's what I have to say.
Wonderful. All right. Well, finally then, Sheldon, who else would I get on this show and why?
Ooh, I have a man named Kelsey Warren. He's different. It's different than the business people, but he is an innovator of music. He's a musician, and I've seen him through all the years. He does rock music, and I've known him for many years, and the times have changed with music so much, where he had to transform what he does to, you know, go with the times, basically. You know what I mean? I've seen him transform and transform and transform. He produces music. He writes for other people. But I've never seen someone so more innovative than him. You know what I mean?
Great.
I really suggest. Yeah, I think a lot of people learn a lot. Even in business people learn a lot from his, you know, gumption, his drive to be innovative.
Okay, well, we'll get an introduction to Kelsey from you and reach out to him and see if we can get him on the show as well. So thanks for that.
No problem whatsoever. Yeah.
And thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights with us today. It's been a fascinating exploration of the creative process from the point of view of someone producing material for theatre, for plays, for screen and TV as well now. So I wish you all the best for the future, and let's keep in touch.
Yes, Bill. Yes, definitely. It was really nice talking with you.
Thanks, Sheldon. I hope you enjoyed that insightful and really informative conversation with Sheldon and took something away from his episode. Now, this was a different kind of guest that we've had before because we focused very much on Sheldon's creative process and his mindset for writing character pieces, which I think is something we can learn from and apply to creative endeavours in business too. I'd love to know what you took away from Sheldon's episode. Leave a comment below the blog post, which you can find at innovabiz.co/Sheldon Shaw. That is SheldonShaw. all lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Sheldon Shaw. You will also find contact information there for getting in touch with Sheldon, as well as links to his website, his social media pages, and the other resources we spoke about in our conversation today. If you like this episode, please do share it with at least 2 other people that it might help. It's your service to those people, and tag me in that share so that I can reach out to you with a special thank you surprise. Sheldon suggested that we have a conversation with Kelsey Warren, a musician who has transformed his work through innovation, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast episode. So Kelsey, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Sheldon Shaw. Tune in again to the next episodes of the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we've got more fantastic guests lined up, including Anna Adams of Wicked Marvelous and Brian Jones of VA Platinum. Thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the show to be reminded of new episodes. It's free to subscribe. Leave a review if you like. Even if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. I'm asking you to leave a review because it helps other people find this show. Go to innovabiz.co to join our marketing transformation community and access a free gift my team and I made for you. It's the Marketing Master Mini Class. We want to give you everything you need to transform your marketing into a human-centered, relationship-focused growth engine. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember, be awesome and keep innovating.